Welcome to Loren Reads to You. Today I am reading The Bedtime Killer by Loren Malloy. That's me. So make sure you're following and subscribing wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if you haven't heard or seen chapters 1 through 12 yet, please make sure, if you choose to pause and save this and go watch or listen through chapters 1 through 12 and then come back to this, if you choose. Otherwise, if you're ready, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's continue. Chapter 13. What the police didn't know was Horace had spent many a night watching Mrs. Beaumont. Horace laid on his cot and began reminiscing. He thought about it. He always began by watching his lovely ladies. His lovers understood he needed time to get to know them. He was just very shy around new people, that's all. His ladies understood that. They knew with him no words were ever really needed, that allowing him to gaze upon his lovers so willingly allowed him to warm up to them. He adored his ladies for this fact. Each one of them were so understanding, so patient. They knew there wasn't anything that brought two people closer than allowing their lover to watch them do those very intimate things that they would never share with another. Bathing, shaving, using the toilet, changing their clothes, exercising, sleeping. They were all wonderful ways his ladies allowed him to get to know them better until he was truly comfortable. Horace spent many days watching a lover with only a pane of glass between them until he felt loved enough by his lady to enter her inner sanctum. It started with needing to just touch the panties his lover was wearing that day. Then it became a need for more. Soon, contact with just his lady's underwear was no longer enough. Actual physical contact with his lover became the only thought on his mind. Horace spent many a night sitting or standing in his lover's bedroom while she slept. Every time he would fantasize with one of his lady's panties swaddled around little Horace, rubbing himself against it while he imagined what he would do when he was finally ready to take that next intimate step in their relationship. Miss Vivian's cat was an issue which was very easily taken care of. A nice helping of Vivian's brandy and the cat's saucer of milk, which Vivian always was good enough to put out every night before she took her sleeping pill, and the cat would be knocked out for hours, making his date nights issue-free. He thought back to when he believed Betsy would be the only one of his lovers to be so selfless. He never expected his wonderful reaction to his memories of his experience with Betty would fade. Yet, he remembered that one morning he woke and nothing was working. Horace could never understand why the memories stopped being enough for him. It happened at every stage of his relationships with his lovers. Nothing was ever enough. Watching his beautiful ladies through a bush or fence while they sunbathed or swimming would be fine at first, but then he would suddenly not feel the same wonderful reaction and need to get closer to his lover. Even after getting as close as a man and a woman who love each other could get, the feelings and the sensations didn't last forever. It infuriated him. He was sure after taking his relationship with Betsy to such completion, he would be satisfied completely afterwards. That was true, but only for a short while, then little Horace would begin to act up again. It didn't matter how many times he replayed his dates in his mind. At some point, no matter what he did, he would have no results. The smile, the dreams, the climaxes, the feelings of happiness, and how in love he and his lady were, would be gone, and in its place, pure frustration began to fill him again. Horace remembered. He closed his eyes in panic. No, not again. I need this. Who can I turn to? Horace thought, and Miss Barbie's terrified eyes appeared. Yes, little Miss Barbie. With that, little Horace trembled with excitement. He started replaying their first blind date over and over again in his mind. The event kept him satisfied for quite some time until one night he couldn't remember exactly how her eyes looked when he caught her. He couldn't remember the feelings he got from her, looking at him with the same wide-eyed fear as he used to. At this point, it was only a few months after she had first drunkenly caught him pleasuring himself to her. Just because she called the cops wasn't a reason to stop seeing her. Shame on him for neglecting his latest lover like that. Closing his eyes, Horace imagined him back on their blind date. He was sitting on top of her air conditioning unit while she was dancing to Girls Just Don't Wanna Have Fun again. This time, she was naked and singing into her wine bottle like a microphone, her tits bouncing as she danced to the music. Little Horace was enjoying himself, but, as usual, not enough to be content. Little Miss Barbie wiggled her ass in front of his eyes as the signal he was allowed to come inside. Horace stood behind her with little Horace standing at attention. Little Miss Barbie was pretending to be unaware her lover was behind her. She continued shaking her ass and singing to the music. Horace grabbed the wine bottle from her hands and began to shove it up her private hole. He whispered, "Nice and tight," as he did so. Little Miss Barbie cried out, pretending she was in pain. He knew it was all an act. It was really just love juice, as his father called it, not blood, as it seemed to be coming from her hole. Ripping the wine bottle from its spot, he smashed her in the head with it, knocking her unconscious. Horace then grabbed her by the ears and twisted her head off. Turning the head around so he was face to face and eye to eye with his lady love, he said, "It's bedtime, baby," before kissing her lips. Putting her head down to watch Horace consummate their relationship, crying out, "Nice and tight," with every thrust. Horace kept his eyes on little Miss Barbie's eyes. She looked so happy. He couldn't wait another moment. He had to have her head. Shoving little Horace into her mouth, he cried out one last time, "It's bedtime, baby." Horace opened his eyes, gasping like a fish out of water. He was a mess, covered in his own fluids again. He didn't care. The fantasy worked, and it was amazing. Horace had spent several weeks visiting his ladies during the day, all the while still envisioning his fantasies on a constant loop. Every one of his ladies became the lead star in his sexual movie. Whoever he was looking at was suddenly the woman of his fantasy. Until one morning, he woke up and little Horace was unimpressed with the fantasy. It was like he was in a coma again. That feeling always made Horace very angry. He didn't like the way it felt to not be able to come, to not be able to have little Horace satisfied. Finally, after trying again to envision his perfect date with little Miss Barbie and having it not work, he tried fantasizing about Betsy again. Still, his member would not arise to the occasion. Horace couldn't handle it anymore. Memories of his encounters with Betsy were no longer working. Fantasies weren't working. Not anymore. He knew in that moment he had to see his little Barbie again. He remembered thinking that he knew he just couldn't be away and disconnected from one of his lovers that long. It just was no good for him or their relationship. Thinking back, Horace knew he couldn't forget his night with little Miss Barbie anytime soon. With Betsy, he was ad-libbing it all. With his lover, Miss Barbie, he felt much more confident to take the lead without needing the same push like with Betsy. Only his second time being so intimate with a lover, and it was so memorable. That was Chapter 13 of The Bedtime Killer by Loren. That's me. So if you're enjoying this book, make sure that you subscribe and follow wherever you're watching or listening to this. And if you'd like this book for yourself, you can find it on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. So let's get ready and start reading chapter 14. I'll see you for that.